Let's move on to the next keynote presentation. And drawing from Plug and Play Ventures' diverse portfolio, our returning speaker will highlight how embodied intelligence is reshaping industries, from robotics to logistics to healthcare and beyond. Help me welcome on the stage, early stage investor at Plug and Play Ventures, Mr. Leonardo Rocchetti.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So great answers, I would say. So I can end the presentation here. So, but first of all, thank you so much, for joining. So after lunch, I would like to make this quick exercise. So now let's all close our eyes, take a deep breath, and thinking and touching our chair or grab something in our hand. So no worry, this is not a meditation session. So, but what I would like you to think is about our five senses. So five senses has always been used by humans to actually perceive the reality, understand it, and making decisions. So, and in the past, centuries, we added, in the last decades, we added sensors, IoT sensors, to understand, so the temperature, to understand the pressure, to understand the humidity, the speed. So, and with all this data, we got decisions. Humans were always behind the decisions on what to do with this data. But now, things are changing. Because now we can interact with an artificial intelligence to, for example, understand the water content of the soil in front of us, actually to harvest our farms or our plants. Or, for example, we can understand and we can foresee and prevent accidents in an industrial plant. Or, for example, we can also understand where we are at when in terms of recovery after an injury. So what's my mobility score of my knee and my ankle. So, and that's what physical AI is about. So physical AI is about getting the data from the real world, understand them, and actually making decisions in our personal and business lives. So in the last few years, generative AI and LLMs taught us something. They taught us that actually, if we bring all the data, all the text, in a foundation model, the AI itself will understand the fundamental structure of language. And this actually revolutionized our interaction with the web and with the digital domain. But in the real world, things are way more complicated. Because understanding the biology, understanding the atoms, the structure of molecules, this requires much more data and is much more complex. Especially then if we need to make actions out of them. So, but what is physical AI? So we have some definitions. So I like to take it the one from NVIDIA. So physical AI lets autonomous systems like robots, self-driving cars, and smart spaces to perceive, understand, and perform complex actions in the real world. So basically, there are three key elements: perception, understanding, and action. But why we are all speaking about physical AI now? Basically, there are a few factors. The first one is the drop of cost of the hardware. So thinking about how we understand a space, how we move around a physical space, robots and cars, they need to do it as well. So, and this component is done by the LiDAR. So, and the LiDAR in 2015, this is a Waymo car, so for the one that haven't been to San Francisco. So there was this rotating sensor on top of the car that understands the surroundings. And the cost was $75,000 per sensor. Today, in 2025, companies like Velodyne are able to ship the same product for less than $1,000. But LiDAR is not only the sensor involved, because robotic systems they are complex systems that they need to make actions they need to perform in very difficult contexts. And they are a bundle of technologies, and all these technologies are receiving and are seeing a huge drop in cost. For example, computation, like the GPU cost, like is dropping like tremendously, like from in multiples every year. And this allows like, the robot to take decisions on the edge, like and to according to what is happening. Same with batteries. So this system should be reliable. Should be reliable because they are acting in the physical world. And the battery, like after huge investments in the space, so drop in cost like tremendously from $800 for kilowatt hours to more than 115. And then also like the motor cost of, for example, like the humanoid robotics. But why this? So this hardware, like they need to have like a very strong performance because the 1 second of an autonomous car of delay can have big consequences, like this. So when I arrived to San Francisco, like the first, I had a ride like, with Cruise. So like it was like my only ride I had with Cruise because after that they shut down the operations in San Francisco. And because with 1 second of delay, like a car really can go and can hit like a person like on the street. And now we are coming to the main problem of this. That is not the computation, even if, of course, we need to improve, but is the data. So basically, like we tend to think that a mathematical problem is complex for us. So it's the most complex thing. But actually, there's this paradox that perception and movement are much more complex, and they need much more data and computation than mathematical problems. And unfortunately, like physical systems can't rely on the same data set that LLMs can rely on. So, because for example, like they can rely on the web for the larger data set size is like 15 trillion of tokens, like to not talk about images and videos, where robots is a very difficult scale. That's why there are like some companies that here like, you can see like foundation model for robotics that are building in this space. They are building like solutions for general purpose robotics. So like they are getting data and building like an AI to let the robot like decide like autonomously. But physical AI is not a new thing. This is like the frontier. Physical AI systems has been in the space for a long time, and there are some leaders like in the space. So founders have built robots like for welding machines, for automating like assembly lines. For example, and we're going to see like some of them, like Path Robotics for welding, it's like Flexi for assembly lines, or built robotics, for example, for excavating or piling like solar plants. So, and that's why, so, and the last race here is about humanoids. So, there have been like massive investments in the space, like to actually find and figure out like the ChatGPT moment for robotics. So companies like Figure, for example, raised 1.5 billion last year, so at a 40 billion valuation, to create robots that can assist humans in manufacturing plants or even in households tasks. So, but why we're speaking about this? We're speaking about this and about physical AI because it's not new, and our corporations have built like many case studies on top of it. So these are a few of them about safer and smarter mobility, about energy infrastructure. For example, COWI built like a system with ConnectSat to understand the load of a bridge, or autonomous robots like for delivery system in the airports, such as like Aeroporti Roma with autonomy. And then the two ones that I'm going to cover today. The first one is a company, our portfolio company called Archetype. So Archetype is building a foundation model for sensor data. So, and Kajima is GC is out of Japan, so they've been partnered with Plug and Play for more than 5 years. So, and contributed like to transform Japan into the modern economy that it is now. So like Kajima had like this old canal in Niigata that actually was affected by floods. And is an area affected by floods. They need to widen like the canal. And so actually like they partnered with Archetype to understand so what is happening at a construction site. Because a project like this, they require like a huge amount of time, so a huge amount of people like involved in the construction site. And actually, if in a unstructured environment like a construction site, there are many potential hazardous situations, and like productivity can be lost like in many different ways. And so what Kajima wanted to understand is what was happening at the construction site. So, and specifically, they partnered with Archetype, and Archetype analyzed more than 11,000 videos, and out of which 662 videos were covering the entire 746 days of footage. And what Archetype built for Kajima is they built like a specific lenses that were able like to understand what was happening at construction site, not only like which kind of equipment was in use in a certain moment, what kind of, but also like to understand which kind of weather was in that specific point in time. Or for example, like how many workers were working on a specific activity. And so, and with this, they were able to track like the construction site and to see backwards, so what happened like during this, this project. And also like to forecast potential hazardous situation where maybe there was an accident when a machine was too close to like a part of the building, so on and so forth. So, and this is an example on how corporates are using like AI to understand the physical reality. Another example that I want to bring here is a company called Intensai that will be like an AI analytics for manufacturing plants. And so, and they work with ZF, that is like one of the leaders like in automotive space, because like in 2019, more than 400,000 more accidents happened like, at the, in the US about in manufacturing plants, and specifically not only in ZF. And ZF specifically has some health issues, some issues, safety issues at one of the manufacturing plants in South Carolina. And so, like, what they needed to spot, they needed to understand why all these costs happen, like, from out of this plant. And so they partnered with Intensai, that was introduced by Plug and Play in one of our deal flow sessions. And actually, Intensai integrated their solution in their current camera that were present, like, at the manufacturing plant, to spot in real time whether, like, employees were working, like, protection devices, like safety mask, and they were conducting the right behavior, like in front of like the right machine. So like after like a short trial of 3 months, the like ZF like signed like a full contract with Intensai that brought $75,000 of saving per year like out of this plant. So Plug and Play has invested in many companies in physical AI space. So we invested in Rugged Robotics, is a robot that actually builds, that integrates data from the BIM models to design the layouts on a construction floor plant. Or, for example, we invest in one of our startups like Einride for autonomous freight transportation, or also like Archetype, as mentioned, or Flexi Robotics, that will be like robots for like assembly lines. And all of these companies, not only these and many more from our ecosystem, so our corporations like highly invested in physical AI systems, so like to actually improve like their operations. And so then out of this knowledge that we collected at Plug and Play, we would like to give like some takeaways about like physical AI. So first, like in this industry, like in robotics, like who has the biggest data set, like wins. Like we always said that data is the new oil, but it's still true also in the robotic space. And companies that have like distribution will have like a very strong advantage because they can be like the terror model on top of it. So while against like the new entrants. Second, and for this reason, we see like a stronger performance and like a high defensibility of who sells and who has proprietary hardware, so together with the software. So because hardware also gives like an unfair advantage of design a specific system, a specific solution, and we see that companies like Waymo, like Tesla, they were able to collect a massive amount of data thanks to their autopilot, and we see that this kind of players will dominate like this market. And on the corporate side, I would say that the true winners will be startups that work with corporates. So the true winners will be the one that will manage like the edge cases. Like corporations, they have complex organizations, they have many bureaucratical like workflows like to work, and also they need to solve, like for example, in a manufacturing plant, there are many edge cases. And startups that were able like, to build solutions to manage this will be the ones that will get the most adoptions like in the industry. That said, I would like to thank you so much for the time here, and I give back the word to.
Thank you, Leonardo. Thank you very much. Thank you for shedding light on physical AI. Now we are smarter, and we're finding the better use cases for AI in the future.